We're gonna get started in just a minute.
The walk, but it should be okay.
And you cross,
Oh.
you're gonna cross here,
Yeah, we'd have to cross there.
which actually, that, because this was my concern is.
Recording in progress.
So,
Yeah.
Let's turn down everybody's
okay?
laptops.
We haven't walked it yet, but it might be an issue.
Find them more confusing. All right. Everybody ready? I'll speak at once. Yeah. Thank you. All
Yes.
right. Okay. Okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the Town of Kensington Town Council meeting, Thursday, October 10th, 2024. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We're gonna have a moment of silence. Is there anyone we should be lifting up? I did find out today that Mary Del Bianco, who lived down Washington Street at 3929 Washington, where they just tore down the house. It was that property, Mark and Mary, that she passed away recently. So they had moved into Washington in 2024, Washington DC, off Washington Street. So we could lift her family up as they grieve her loss. Obviously, we want to think about the people down in the lower part of the United States who have been dealing with hurricanes. Keep them all in our thoughts and prayers as well. Right, I don't see anybody with their hand up. So if we could just bow our heads for a moment. Okay, thank you very much. All right, council, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. I did not see any comments from the council regarding the minutes. If you have something, please let us know now. Otherwise, I will take a motion to approve. Make a motion to approve.
Move to approve the minutes from the September 10th, excuse me, town council meeting.
There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Susan. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move down. Matt, do you want to take the first one?
Sure, town, will be hosting in coordination with Montgomery Planning, a meeting, next Tuesday, October 15th, between 7 and 9 o'clock, to discuss, the Attainable Housing Strategies Initiative. There will be 2 staff members from Montgomery Planning to answer questions from the community. The event will be live streamed on the Montgomery Municipal Cable channel YouTube page. So if you have any questions prior to the event, please send them in. Or if you have any questions after the event, and you want answers, just email the town staff and we'll get them over to Montgomery Planning.
Okay. And everybody should have received the information about the meeting on the front page of the town journal, as well as a postcard was sent. Okay. All right, council, any questions about that? I know they will have a presentation. We'll have the sound system set up.
Yep.
Are you willing to MC the event?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa Gavoni from county planning staff will present an overview of attainable housing strategies. And then she, as well as Matt from the
Bolden.
planning staff,
Not Bolden.
Bolin, yeah.
Okay,
As well as one of the planning board commissioners will be in attendance to do Q&A.
oh, good, okay, all right, and Carrie will be there too, Carrie Sanders?
Carrie will not be.
Oh,
There
okay.
is a second event on University Avenue. So when I spoke to her this week,
Okay,
Matt is in her division. Matt Folden is coming here. Carrie's going there.
okay, so one of the board members will be coming.
But yes,
Okay.
Hartwick, one of the commissioners.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm very, not as familiar with the new board.
Yeah.
As I was with the last one. Okay, Good.
But I'm just curious what the purpose of this is, because we have what they passed unanimously back in June and sent to the council for approval or,
Mhm.
and now we've got these various hearings that are going, listening sessions that are going through. And the first thing the county council says in these listening sessions is, whoa, 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 calm down, everybody. There's not even legislation yet.
Mhm.
And so are we anticipating that the legislation might amend this, at which point this session becomes a little bit obsolete because what they approved is now changed?
Well, they're not gonna do
No.
anything between now
Or are
and.
we
They
assuming-
haven't approved anything. All they did was transmit their draft proposal from planning staff to the county council. And in there, it makes a slew of recommendations,
Okay,
which the county council will go through all of it and then decide how they want to move forward. One, there's different process mechanisms. One would be, do they do a zoning map amendment and do this kind of community by community?
Mhm.
Or do they do a zoning text amendment that covers the entire county? And to your point, that's when legislation would be introduced. So there has not been, the process hasn't been defined yet, nor has any legislation language been released yet, nor has the pattern book, which is a big part of this, that dictates massing, location, setbacks, et cetera, areas of conforming to the nearby residences. So in the listening sessions that the county council has held, they have been very clear that there is nothing. That's why we have not reviewed anything or taken a position or written a letter. So the 15th event is really because there's a lot of people within the county, but thinking of the town, who just have not been paying attention, and we're trying to make them aware. So we've asked the planning staff to come in and give an overview, the same one that they did at the listening sessions. I'm sure it will be the same slides. Help kind of level set what was in the draft proposal, the plan, and then let residents ask questions. The listening sessions, there were some questions posed, but they really
They
truly
didn't
didn't
answer really them.
They
no.
just were soliciting input.
Mhm.
It will also help to inform residents based on what they hear, and whether they are supportive of all, none, or anything in between, how to communicate their feelings about the plan or aspects of the plan to the council, so that when the council does begin to take it up, they will have some barometer of what the county and the different areas of the county are thinking.
okay. Because I wouldn't imagine that a single planning board member coming to this plus a staffer
Mhm.
would be in a position to undermine what the whole planning board has forwarded as a set of recommendations.
Yeah, I would think
So-
it's more to help shed insight into why they recommended what they recommended.
Mhm.
What, data, national trends, local trends, changes in housing strategies and planning strategies, how did they get to the 290-page document that they got to?
Okay,
And it's an opportunity for us to hear what our residents think about this to form. our-
right.
to
No,
form our-
no, and I get
our
that. I'm
opinion.
just, I'm sort of thinking the next step ahead is they're gonna hear what the set of recommendations
Mhm.
are. But then maybe the more important discussions will be when the county council picks up the legislation to be pushing for area by area or entire county.
Right, and is it all multiplexes, right? The county council could come back and introduce legislation that is duplexes only.
Mhm.
Or duplexes by right, triplexes and quadplexes by optional method, like there's a whole spectrum. And so this will become more nuanced toward our input in whether the town takes a position once there's legislation. There is not.
Right.
The council president, Andrew Friedson, worked very hard to try and make it clear that there's not legislation currently. If legislation were to come about, it's probably months away because they will want the pattern book with it.
Right.
When it comes about and it is introduced, it will sit for 30 days.
Right.
Then it will go through the PHP, the housing committee, and it will go through their process with public meetings before it comes to the whole council. So there will be multiple avenues for public input. This is our chance to, well, we don't know the legislative language yet, to just make people aware that, Thrive as a general plan passed, this is kind of the first major potential change coming out of Thrive. And well, this is kind of everything in the kitchen sink, to hear what people's comfort levels are with, any or all different aspects of it.
I mean, and I appreciate that. I just, this county council, just in the past 2 and 3 years, appointed every single member of the planning board.
Mhm.
It would be weird to me if we ended up with a county council that wasn't in lockstep with the people that they just appointed. And so I hear Andrew Friedson's comments about there's no legislation yet.
Mhm.
But I want to know, I want to feel, and I think he's a great, very candidate. I want to feel like there's a chance to influence the legislation, that it's not simply a rubber stamp of what came from the planning board.
Yeah.
In some ways, I think that argues for the listening session on the 15th. Hearing from people helps us be better informed to be able to engage in those conversations at the next stage.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions about number 1 from the audience? I don't see any hands. All right, B,
We'd like to,
I'm sorry.
Joe.
Oh, I don't see his hand. Oh, there
It
it
just
is.
came up.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, thank you. I was hoping that the town would make available or allow for a Zoom option to attend, for townspeople to attend the October 15th meeting. Zoom is a tried and true way of encouraging and expanding the audience, and I think it just makes sense if we could have that as an option too for attending the meeting. It is, after all, still a time of COVID, so I think there's ample good reason for making available a town option on the 15th.
Okay, well, the live is pretty much the same thing. I know it doesn't give you that option to maybe put in a live question, but you can send questions ahead of time.
Yeah, it's not as interactive, obviously, as Zoom is, and the town has made effective use of Zoom for quite some time, for 4 years now. So I would hope it would extend that option next Tuesday.
Okay, well, at this moment, it's going to be live on the YouTube channel. Whether we change it or not, we'll see, but right now it will be live and people can watch it live, and then it'll be recorded, of course.
Is there any reason not to have a Zoom option? Any good reason not to do so?
I think as easy as you think it is, Joe, it's not an easy process. There's a lot of difficulty. So that was MMC's suggestion that we do it that way.
yeah, logistically, we couldn't make it work in the drill hall.
Yeah, in the drill hall, acoustics with Zoom shows, slideshows. I know we've tried doing hybrid meetings before that.
Yeah, it's tough.
If the town's objective is to allow for ample opportunity for townspeople to make their views known and to pose questions, it seems like Zoom would be a benefit to do that, to reach that goal, to reach that objective.
Well, I disagree with you, because while you can't maybe make your question on that moment, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get to that question, depending on how many we have anyway. So just send the question ahead of time, and then we'll be able to submit it to the speakers.
Well, you're quite right. It might not be a question that sort of keeps its appropriateness as the session unfolds.
Well, or that question has already been answered.
Yeah.
So Zoom does allow you a lot more flexibility. So I encourage the town to consider that seriously.
All right, well, you risk not being able to see the or hear. So, that's also a problem with the Zoom.
Well, I'm sure, after so many years of working with Zoom, that the town can figure out a way to make both of those options available.
All right, thank you. All right, I don't see any other hands. Okay, Matt.
Sure. We'd like to announce that we're going to hold a special town council meeting on Monday, October 21st. This will be a closed session. This will be for the council to discuss with the town attorney negotiations with 10509 Summit Ventures LLC with regards to the Flats at North Station project.
Also, you have any questions about that?
No.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, all right, let's move on to number 2.
Want me to?
Yeah, keep going.
On a roll.
Sure. So staff is requesting that the council discuss and establish a schedule for possibly selling Joseph Park, which is located at 3420 Pliers Mill Road. As the council may remember, we met with the public following an announcement on March 1st back in 2023, so about 19 months ago, to answer any questions and concerns they have. We did do a tree inventory with our staff arborist, Ed Mulheron. And staff is requesting council to provide us with a schedule to at least have public comment on whether we should proceed with the sale or not.
Okay, and can you refresh everybody's memory on what the schedule is? What does that entail?
So essentially what we need to do is we received public comment already. We'd like to receive continue public comment. But if we were to put forward an ordinance to start the process, it would allow the council to establish a public hearing, which would allow comment to go into the record. Council has the option to keep the record open. Doesn't mean you need to move the following month. And then it would give us direction on how to proceed. There are some administrative tasks that we would have prior to moving forward with this. So we kind of need to get that started if we're going to do it. So.
Okay.
What kind of administrative tasks?
We will need to file with Montgomery Parks, as we did with the Servpro property that we're acquiring a property. If we need to update the tree inventory, which we will, and then
That's park and planning, not parks.
Montgomery Parks.
Yeah.
Montgomery Parks.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out how we're going to sell the property, whether we're going to use a realtor or do it internally or not. So.
But in order to, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Done.
No, go ahead.
I jumped again there.
That's right.
In order to have public engagement, we don't need to issue the notice of an ordinance first. Like we can establish, obviously we have to have public comment after an ordinance has been introduced, but.
Well, you have to have a hearing.
Yes, you need to
Right.
have a formal hearing. Yes.
Right.
But to your earlier comment about having public input on the record, we can do that as we did before and last time it was on a council agenda and had discussion.
Yeah.
Because my preference would be that we establish a schedule that allows people to understand more the financial considerations before we automatically have an ordinance on the table and have an opportunity to discuss what the options are for financing the various things that we're looking to finance in near term, acquisition or capital improvements. Because then I think we can have a more robust discussion about the trade-offs of selling the park I'm thinking of like our budget forum where we were talking about all the various things coming up. So that's my preference, is that we find a way to do that prior to introducing an ordinance, even though I recognize that there will still need to be a hearing after the ordinances.
Well, I think part of it, I mean, I don't have any problem with that route, but I think part of it is recognizing that, the things that are becoming available, like right now, there's some kind of stopped in the conversation, but the property at Decatur and St. Paul, that will come back around, and, we're gonna want to be able to purchase that for, our stormwater management needs. And then, of course, you have, we're buying the property for the Servpro property, but we're going to have to, we're not buying it just to have it sit there. So, we've got to be able to finance, how are we financing the
adjacent
designing, the building, and then plus adding the Pepco lot. So, I do realize that Joseph Park is an asset that we have, but We're basically exchanging one asset for other assets.
But I'm very
Let
much
me-
in favor of what Anne's saying, because I think the residents should know what these different
Oh, sure.
things are that we're
Mhm.
considering for financing and purchasing, and I think that we should put all options on the table. It shouldn't just be our budget. I think we
Mhm.
should consider taking out debt, issuing debt. We've never
I
done that.
have no problem with taking a loan out because I think we're gonna end up in building our
For the
public works building.
Yeah, so why not consider it for both?
Right.
So I think that that should be on the table in the discussion, and
Mhm.
I would argue for doing it sooner than later. Maybe we even start it in November.
Well, I think we need to, because these things are gonna be becoming available and we
We are
need to
gonna
be able to
get
do it.
very busy in the new year, with the storm drain projects and everything, so kind of what I mentioned to the mayor was, you know, at least over the next couple months, it gives the staff a little bit of time to figure out what we wanna do with Joseph Park, gives us some time, kind of figure out what we wanna do going forward. Because in the new year, I don't think we're gonna have time to really handle this, especially if there's a development project. With the Baker's Union site, which is a possibility since it's going back to market. So we're looking at a time crunch, at least on our end, to kind of dealing with everything.
The risk of being a contrarian. I'm gonna take it.
Getting used to it.
I know, 56. Let me offer a different suggestion forward. And first is, during the last public engagement on this, and we can change our minds, but we assured the public that we wanted to evaluate the merits of selling the park on its own, without reference to what we might want to use the money for. We just want to look at this park, look at the use, and decide, is it worth the maintenance costs that we put into this? If we want to change that, we can do that, but I would still prefer to look at it in isolation of, it is a park that nobody uses. The only time we get proposed alternative uses are when we consider selling it. And then we take a pause in selling it and all those alternative uses just go away. So I would prefer to look at it solely with respect to, is it an asset that is valuable to the community? And then the other part of this that I'd like to differ a little bit on is, I'd rather start the process of an ordinance to sell, because we do need to have a public hearing to sell. And if we engage in a lot of public process and public record making before we do that, before we introduce the ordinance, the public hearing itself, which is statutorily required and formal, almost looks like a fait accompli. That we've already heard, we've made a decision to move forward with respect to the 2 public engagements. And it's not really, you know, for us to decide to move forward. So given the schedule, I would prefer just to introduce an ordinance. If we don't move forward based on the public engagement, we don't move forward. But if we do, then we're further along the process than having 2 sets of public engagement.
I wouldn't see it as a fait accompli, because I think that suggests that we wouldn't be considering the differing viewpoints and the evidence around the value of the asset.
What's the point of the
before we're-
first one? What's the point of the listening session first?
Well, I
If
think
we're-
some of the analysis that Nate was describing, being able to understand the potential budget outlays we have coming for capital improvement, property acquisition, ways of financing them aside from selling and the trade-offs involved in those decisions.
Wasn't that part of our capital improvement event that we had when we walked through?
I don't think we went into.
Well, I don't
mean,
think we
never
went into it,
discussed,
but
like-
we discussed all the things that we wanted to do and needed to do.
Right, but we never discussed the option of financing through debt, for
Okay,
example. And it may very well be, we put that forward and the public's like, no, we don't want the town to take on debt. But then we've had that conversation now. My assumption is that we can get that analysis done and have it set forth at, say, the next council meeting. And then based on that, we could decide. I don't know if that gives you enough time if you're thinking about timing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine.
are you talking about a separate meeting or?
Or as part of put it on the agenda. of the
Okay.
council.
Okay,
No, I think that's fine.
So do we want to relink the 2 ideas of, hey, we need the money for these 3 projects that we're considering, so this is where we can get the money from? Because I felt like we assured people it wasn't going to be that.
Well, I
You
think
know-
inevitably people are gonna say, well, what do you need the money for?
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
that's a pretty
it's hard
much a
to-
basic question. If you're selling something, you must need the money for something. It's not just to throw into the bank
Mhm.
and let it sit there.
I mean, and as we did let the public know back on March 1st in 2023, we are looking at 2 other properties. We're looking at 10800 St. Paul. You know, the communications there have kind of stalled, but I do think we'll acquire it at some point. We're also talking to Kensington Crossing to acquire the property west of Silver Creek. This is an area that is in the town, but is under the HOA of Kensington Crossing, which is outside the town. Their board has voted to allow the town to proceed with an appraisal and to potentially make an offer. We have not gone through with appraisal yet. That is an area that is already in the county floodplain, but would allow us to address stormwater issues in that location. It would allow us an opportunity where we have open space where we can plant larger trees that we don't have in other areas. So that is something that is on the table for us. We just haven't gone through with the appraisal process. You know, there's other lots in the town that may potentially come up that would make sense for us. You know, obviously this is a council decision. Staff has always looked at this property, Joseph Park, as a residential home. We have looked at it as an asset to sell when we need funds to go after something else. That is something that needs to go through a public comment and the council. But it is something that we would like for you to at least consider now.
Yeah. I guess, my recollection of the last time we talked about it, and I don't quite recall saying that we were gonna keep it singularly focused on the value and the merits of the park as its own entity. I thought we were gonna consider it vis-a-vis the other parks in our system and try to understand the value of each of them that has to offer. What is the unique nature of those parks? What could Joseph Park be? Because I remember people talked about having it be a pollinator garden, peace garden, some other thing, a welcoming to the town from the east side, coming from Players Mill. But I don't know if that analysis was ever done. I can't remember which.
I mean, that would be the Greenscape Committee. We did in concert or separately, like you had the arborist look at it, and Greenscape Committee members
Yeah.
also looked specifically at Joseph's Park. But we didn't do like a park by
Okay.
park evaluation. If
Well,
that's what
I
you-
think it's the only park we have that doesn't have a purpose. If that's your question.
Yeah, I think that you even made the point that it could have a purpose if if we think about it in the context of the other parks. And again, there were some ideas from the audience.
Well, I had thought about a labyrinth, but then I stood there for our meeting and realized, oh my God, it's so loud here.
Mhm.
This is not a quiet place. It would make more sense to do it at the property at Decatur and St. Paul Street, quite
Mhm.
honestly. If you wanted something that's a little bit quieter. Players Mill is not the right location for that.
Yeah.
Because I've just never stood there. And we were there for quite a while, I would say over an hour. And I realized, wow, this is loud. Because I did look hard to try to find a purpose. And that was the only thing I could come up with because it sits on a residential street very next to residential homes, which means there's limited activity that you want to place so close to residential homes as a park. I mean, St. Paul Park is how far?
200 feet, maybe.
200 feet? It's not like there's no park in that area. And there's open land further down on Wheatley that, I think there's some issues on that property, so it'll probably never get developed. So there is open land in that area. So, I share the concerns of our town manager that we have some ambitious projects that we are trying to do here. And we've been very good at saving money and having funds to do things, but at some point, we'll have to probably take out a loan, which we'll have to go through that process as well with the, to do that.
Mhm.
So.
So what is the decision? It'll go on the agenda?
Well, I mean, take a motion. Well, we'll have to get some
Yeah.
comments from there's a hand raised, but,
Connor, did you have an opinion? We didn't hear from you.
I was trying to get a report
Pretty
in
clear.
anyways.
I mean, it's my backyard. it's not used. I think it could have other uses. We've thought about many of them. My concern is trying to come up with an identity that is the purpose of the identity to drive people to that park? Because there's very little I can think of that will bring people into that space. And if it were to, does it actually result in the town having to put in considerable amount of capital to make it ADA compliant? It has huge topographical issues. You cannot, I mean, it's a 5-foot rise up from Wheatley Street to the park. There are no stairs or steps or ramping. It's a little more flush along Pliers Mill toward St. Paul Street. But as you get to the corner, it drops off considerably. Like, you know, depending on the types of uses we think of, it may mean pouring more capital into the park without it actually resulting in people using it. My biggest thing is I sit between St. Paul Park and Joseph's Park. And less than 200 feet away, we have kind of one of our crown jewel parks that we are also putting additional capital into to create new improvements that are extending who can use it and how they can use it and how it can be engaged for events, for different activities, now with range of mobility. And I think that will drive more and more people to St. Paul Park. And so when I sit on my back porch and I look out to Matt's comment, I mean, it strikes me as if the sign weren't there, it would, it's a residential lot waiting to be developed into a home. I think a home would fit more appropriately. The other consideration I have, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've put an addition on my home. The O'Connors, whose property sits to the south of it, are in the process of finishing theirs, which has moved their property closer to that, to the park. My neighbors to the north are in review of doing an addition to their property, which would push their rear of their house closer to the park. More things, how much more park-like is it gonna be? We're gonna have houses even closer to the property lines.
Right, and nobody wants to play when, it's a two-way street. You've got people, if you're
Mhm.
playing on that piece
Yeah.
of land, they're within feet of your windows. So they can see you and you can see them, and it's not, you need a bigger space away from residential
And
homes.
so other considerations, which we talked about, but for the record, right, there are, from a tree canopy or a forestry standpoint, and we looked and the tree inventory done, I mean, the one item in the middle of the park is not a tree. It's simply a shrub that has never been trimmed.
Yeah.
The U tree.
And then there's, a cedar, 1, 2, 3 ash that are in fair condition, but likely have ash borer, only because a neighbor who's doing a remodel is trying to bring down the ash that sits right next to the ones in the park. And the arborist they brought out took one drill and he's got to wait till it's dormant. It's riddled with ash borer. But there's a black walnut, there's a cedar, but if redeveloped or sold to be residential use, new trees will get planted, right? And that, I think about the fact that there are, larger trees there. Some are in good health, some are not in good health. So I will be honest, I mean, I was one of the first ones to say we should consider selling it. There's the question of taking on debt or raising taxes or other funding mechanisms versus selling this, I think is worthy to put on the table and discuss. This is not like our other parks. I would never advocate to sell Flynn Park. I would never advocate to sell Plum Kennedy Park or St. Paul Park. This has a park by virtue of the sign in front. I've lived in my house almost exactly 10 years, and I think I've seen 2 people in that park ever that were not town crew maintaining it weekly.
Well, part of the thing too that we want to do with our public works building, which would help St. Paul Park, is providing restroom options.
Mhm.
And so, that funding, we say, well, we don't want it for something specific, but when you fill, the CIP, that funds can go all sorts of ways.
Mhm.
But part of it is, the improvements that, additional improvements that you can make to other parks, adding bathrooms. I know that's a really big thing for some people. And, I don't know about a party room, but I know bathrooms would be
bathrooms-
really good.
I mean, I joke, but quite honestly, Casey and I were out of town last weekend and got a text from a neighbor in an emergency, a bathroom emergency, and luckily we have the ability to open our doors remotely so that their daughter could use the bathroom. I think it's a big deal that we are considering it for St. Paul Park, because I think seeing who uses that between all the teams and birthday parties and the families that are there constantly, especially over the last, 4 or 5 days, those are huge. I mean, that would be quite literally a game changer, both for the park and for me.
So just to try to
Yeah.
pin you down. I think what we're trying to figure out is, do we want a public engagement now to figure out how to scope the ordinance and whether to scope the ordinance, and then have a public hearing and then proceed however we decide? Or do we want to propose an ordinance to sell? Consider within the public hearing process, perhaps alternative ways of
Mhm.
funding other projects in the context of the merits of selling the park, and then proceed. So 2 public sessions, is that fair? And or
Yeah,
or
one of those,
within the scope of the ordinance.
right.
Yeah, and I would just add in the second one, maybe, or I don't know if it's the second one or the first one, that I think we should have a discussion about what the park could be if we decide to keep it. Because I agree with, I mean, these are the same arguments that
Mhm.
you said before for why it just sits there, no one uses it. If that's the case, besides being a buffer, collecting, allowing, drainage and stormwater to avoid runoff because it's grass and not a house there.
Mhm.
I can't think of any other benefit unless it's used for something else. Many other benefits, I should say. But I think that the public will have strong views on this, so I think we owe it to them to have a very well-defined process where they can come in and know all the information. And I'd like to challenge our residents to come up with some ideas for how to use it, and maybe how to also.
But to Connor's point, by coming up with, then, are we going to, spend $50,000, the money that could really go somewhere else to put in bathrooms and, for
Well,
Howard.
But my view
St. Paul Park.
is after that full discussion, the public may see and we may decide it's not
Not
worth
worth
it
it,
to do
yeah.
the
Well, that's
alternative
true,
use,
too.
because we put more like,
That's true.
But we also did that once. We had a whole bunch of people come in from within and without of the town and make these alternative proposals. And they sound good in concept, but there was 0 follow through on this. And I hate to sort of proceed with another proposal where they come in and say, no, we really want a community garden now. And we back off, and then the idea falls apart again. Like, I feel like we gave
Yeah,
them a
but
chance
in
to.
fairness to them, I
propose.
I think they're waiting for us to communicate the next step. Yes, we're gonna pursue a public garden, or a community garden, or whatever it is, a pollinator garden. We need your help. We didn't do any of that communicating, to be
I
honest.
felt like
We never-
there were very specific proposals from people associated with the University of Maryland who had the expertise to do it. But, and not to, second guess their good faith, but it felt like it was a way to prevent the sale rather than an actual purposeful use of the park.
Yeah, I don't think we did genuine follow-up.
Well, so that still puts us at the question of
question you posed.
Yeah.
how do we proceed?
Yeah, from a process standpoint, I don't have strong feelings other than I don't know that we can wrap our minds around this in one public hearing at a town council meeting, right? I mean, we have to, if we open it up with an ordinance, that starts it, but I don't know if would have to leave the record open and hold a separate session just to tackle all these. I mean, we're gonna try and talk about funding streams, and we're gonna talk about possible debt service or other uses for that park, or benefits of where the money, from that sale could go to other parts of town. I mean, that's, unless I'm all in for a marathon session in November, but I mean, that's gonna be,
It'd be a lot.
it's gonna be a lot.
I just fear that what Matt is saying will
Mhm.
come to pass, which is we will have process, get into next year. And then like we did with the last time we considered this proposal, we will defer it 6 months or a year because we
Yeah.
don't have the
The
bandwidth.
bandwidth to
handle
do it.
Well, and I would be like, hey, sometimes we gotta take tough votes. I think our process should be to introduce an ordinance so that we hear everything. And then, it's part of what we're elected to do, we vote. And if we vote all for, all against, somewhere in the middle, in that moment, we'll have chosen in that moment in time. If we choose not to sell now, who knows? Maybe a new use for the park comes about, or it comes up later at a different time in the town's, growth. But I do think it should be, I would be in favor of introducing the ordinance just so that we can have a real conversation that if we agree through that process that, okay, this is what we want to do, then we take, we move to a vote. And not just have a conversation for years on years.
No, I would agree, like, there's no point in doing the extra public engagement without plans to move to an actual decision. Otherwise.
Of whether
in
we're
this-
going to do
Of whether we're going
an
to
ordinance?
sell or do something
Okay.
else with the
a
park.
resolution.
So I would not want to do what Darren is worried about, which is have a public session and then let it fall again.
Mhm.
Like, I think that my proposal was, let's have a public session where we lay out more of this information prior to moving to an ordinance.
Well, and given that we do have waiting periods where we have to do something, we have to advertise, we have to wait. Matt, right now in the fall, can we work on that? What would it mean to go into debt? What would it mean, if for these other uses that we have, and then feed it to people?
Could it also be conveyed during the next meeting when we introduce the ordinance, that you
Yeah, I mean,
provide the information to the public at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, we could just take another step and ask the community to meet with us again, see if their opinions have changed. I mean, it's been 19 months since we've discussed this. We
There's
got a
been
lot of
changeover in
we
residents.
got a lot of good feedback. I thought it was pretty good. There was no consensus that came out of that meeting, but I mean, maybe that's the step. I really, I would like the council to move forward with this and make a decision, whatever that decision is. Because if it's off the table, then we're gonna figure something else out.
Mhm.
If it's on the table for us, then we want to know that it's a possibility to sell because it changes how we're gonna do things, especially over the next 3 or 4 months. So that's kind of where we're looking at it on a staff side. It would be a considerable amount of money to the town. As the council knows and the public knows, we have some acquisitions in front of us. One of the acquisitions is more than we initially anticipated with the M&T property. We know that we have the second Pepco property that we need to acquire, which is probably going to be similar in value to what the sale price of this is, probably within $80,000 or $100,000. We know we're going to have to take debt on the public works facility, even with Green Bank help, grants from the state. We know we're probably going to have to take debt on that. It's just, it would give us a better direction of how we need to proceed with some of the other things that are in front of us. And, as you guys know, we are working on a lot of things.
Well, we are investing in the future,
Yeah.
is what we're doing. And this town has gone with the exception of this building, which we have invested quite a bit of money, but we've gotten money from the state as well. But, we are deferring a lot of maintenance on our public works building right now, the current one. And, when we get the new one and are able to add the Pepco property, we need to get moving. We can't let it sit for 10 years while we're trying to figure out how we're gonna do it.
And as the council knows, and maybe we don't say it publicly, but as the council knows, there's other properties that we have looked at too that have been mentioned tonight, but other areas where we could address or potentially acquire property that would make more sense strategically. Joseph's Park is right next to St. Paul Park. But there's other areas in the town, specifically on the north side, where maybe we haven't had a conversation yet, but we could potentially have a conversation. Where it would make more sense to create open space or maintain open space as opposed to just park. Again,
Sure.
we're just staff, but we've always looked at this as an asset to get something else. Historically, since I've been here, and that's why I'm kind of asking the council to address this now.
Two questions I would have that I think would benefit the conversation. One is, have we had a recent appraisal done of Joseph's Park? Anything that would indicate what we believe the market value would be?
Just based on sales on the north side, obviously we have received some unsolicited
Okay.
offers. They have been, what I would say, competitive with what other lots have gone for on the north side.
The other one that I alluded to that I'd be curious about is if we were to create an identity for the park, something that activates it to be more than green space, when would that trigger, whether it's ADA or some other regulation that would require us to create access points to the park, and what might that cost?
That's something we have to look into. Yeah, I guess it depends on what we want to do.
Mhm.
I mean, as you mentioned, there are some topography issues.
Yeah.
I will say, if this, and I don't want to get too far, if this were to be a residential house, it is a corner lot. It has 2 front yards, which means it has 2 front setbacks. It has a rear setback and a side setback. You are not going to get a 5,000 square foot home on that.
Mhm.
There's limitations to it. There's always conditions you could put on the property for the replanting of trees. It would be difficult for any developer. Obviously, they're going to want to put a driveway. It's going to have to come off of Wheatley and not Pliers Mill. Obviously, you're going to be taking up a lot of space there. To get through, there's going to have to be a retaining wall. It's not the easiest property, but it is a corner lot in Kensington, so it will sell and sell quickly.
So I'm not sure, well, we can go out to the public, but I'm not sure what you guys want to do. All right, so we're gonna open it up to the public. Zach, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and hope everybody's been well. Apologies, I'm traveling, but the reason why I'm calling in is because I think this is a really important issue, and unfortunately, I feel like we've gone a little bit back in time. We had a pretty extensive discussion, quite a while ago, and as a few council members have said, there's a lot of good ideas put on the table. But I don't think there's been any follow through on this. And I think at the time, just to remind the council, there were letters that were written. There was some pretty strong voices around the table from the public expressing broader concerns about this. And again, the alternatives that were proposed, I don't think there was any follow up on here. This issue disappeared from the agenda for quite a while, and then it felt very strange to see it popping back up. And there's several of us in the community who have been keeping an eye out to see if this is going to come back up, and we felt comfortable over such a long time that it probably was going to go away, but apparently it hasn't. So I just want to make a few points just very quickly. Actually, before I get into that, I know there's been a few comments about value here, and I think it's really important that we take a step back and understand what we're placing value on. I keep hearing terminology such as, the use of the park, the identity of the park, as if it needs, feet or, on it and things like that to create value. So I want to challenge our views of value of this land and whether or not it needs a number of people who visit it. It provides value just by being land and green space in the community. I just want to put that out there. So just on my point. So first, I'd like to ask if putting this back on the agenda has been really motivated by the staff, or is it really council members, or where do the different council members stand on this? I think some of it's coming out clearly in the commentary so far, but it would be very helpful to know who's really pushing for this piece of it. you know, for instance, discussions about bathrooms and stuff, this was never on the table when we were discussing it last time. So I find this, we're a little bit all over the place here. And so I do think it would be helpful to get clarity on, are we coupling it with other capital improvements? And this is the critical piece of the puzzle, or are we just looking at it on its own? The second is I would like to underscore the major concerns we have regarding the issue itself. And I'm speaking on behalf of a few people in the community. We do not believe public parks should be sold, period. And the last point I would like to make here is if the council wishes to move forward on this, there will be a coalition of citizens who are ready to fight it, who really have a strong stance that says no matter what the rationale, we don't believe that we should be selling our parks. So I put it on the table just so that you're aware that there are views in the community out there with this. They're strong views, and I just think it's important that you're aware of it going into this discussion. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you. All right, so how do you want to proceed? I don't see any other hands.
Just direction from this.
No, I
Yeah.
understand, but I'm hearing two meetings. You want to put it on the agenda for next month as well to
Yeah.
craft the
My proposal.
resolution?
My proposal that I brought up earlier is that rather than going to an ordinance to sell, we have it on the agenda for next month. I know Connor's pointed out it might be a full discussion that
Okay.
could overtake a full agenda, but I'm saying we should have a public engagement process that lays out the considerations, including, I guess I am explicitly linking it to these other
Sure.
points. To your point, Tracy, I think it's on the it's on the table because there's a question about all of these other things that the town
There is,
would like to do.
as I said, we are prepared to make big investments in our town and we have to pay for them.
Right.
And
So,
how are we going to do it? We brought up this asset 19 months ago. And, you know, I'm sorry, but things, as we all know, take a certain amount of time. Government can move very slowly because we get distracted with other things. That's why State Highway doesn't give us anything for 7 years. They're on the 7-year
sure, but we're
plan.
not state
But
highway.
we're not State Highway. But, you know, things are now coming together. Things are, you know, and we now will own a piece of property at the end of this month.
Right. So I guess
And
what-
we need to, what are we gonna do with it now? What, you know, what's our next, I mean, we know what our next steps are, but there are things that we've got to do.
so my question would be, if it's feasible, my preference would be to not proceed with an ordinance tonight. but
Well,
to
we're not,
instead
it's,
look
we're not,
into-
there is no ordinance.
I know,
Yeah,
but
okay.
to start the
Recommend
process,
proceeding.
to
Okay.
recommend.
Yeah.
But that we, at the next council meeting, have this on the agenda and have an opportunity to understand the financing options. Not just the sale, but other financing options.
Yeah, and I
The
think the
ordinance-
public should know, sorry, real quick, I think the
Okay.
public should know in that meeting where this falls, like what is it, a potential piece of the puzzle for financing the various things that we're going to acquire, or want to acquire. And on the table has to be all of the financing options, right? I think you would put on there everything we've discussed, but I think you'd have to even do tax raise on there too, because I think it's, you know, if we have to acquire these, if we're gonna invest, that has to be an option that we consider.
Tax and debt, you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, those are two financing mechanisms and the public should be able to comment on those.
Right.
And if they don't, if it's, like, I understand the person who's commenting Zachary's points, because I think there's going to be a set of our residents that have a strong opposition to this, no matter what, but at the same time, it's important to us to give the information on what will finance it then in its alternative. And I tend to, that position tends to resonate with me because I see the intrinsic value of green space and open space, period. But as a decision maker for this town, I need to be able to look at all of we need to be able to look at all of the differing ways and the balance of the trade-offs for the ways that we can finance it.
So basically you want to hold a kind of a public hearing next month, more or less.
I'm more than happy to relink it to the other priorities. I'm just having trouble getting my head around the ordinance itself, because I think the ordinance itself will simply be to approve the sale of the property.
I guess,
And I don't know if, given that a lot of these other expenditures will take place in a different budget year, will take place before a different council. I don't know whether we can, in that ordinance, kind of bind the future budgets and councils to putting the money into a bathroom at St. Paul Park, or putting it into, something here. So I'm trying to keep our focus on, should we support an ordinance to sell St. Paul Park? And
Not St. Paul,
St.
I'm sorry.
Joseph Park. Let's not do that.
Oh,
panic.
I got a lot more money for that one. Can't wait to see the flyer about me on this.
That'll go well with HSI under consideration.
South Joseph Park. We can talk about the other ideas and gain input, but any of those other priorities for the money, the bathrooms, the town hall, or the
It's
garage,
more of
it's all gonna be
examples
like-
of, are the things that we have coming up that we have to outlay.
And I
you
think
know.
so that's why it does make sense to relink it and say, we do have priorities. But I still think our overall goal should be, what is the value of that land to the town and its residents? And is it something that we should, notwithstanding, move forward to sell? So I don't, if we want to have a listening session, okay, I wouldn't oppose it, except I just worry about our ability to put in place the necessary steps to introduce an ordinance, have a public hearing, accept comment, and finalize it. Because I'm just remembering, Tracy, your email to us a year and a half ago saying, we just have way too much on the plate right now, and so we are not going to, we're going to revisit this in the future. And I don't want that to happen again.
I don't think I do either, but are you saying that you think that having it drafted as an ordinance, however it may look, and putting it on for next month, it would be enough to be able to facilitate the conversation we want to have?
I think we'll get the same public comment we got a year and a half ago,
I don't
I-
think so. I think it'll be,
which is
think it'll be-
okay.
yeah.
I think people who oppose it live near it, walk their dogs in it, value open
Around
space.
it.
And I think our job will be to accept that comment and make a judgment of whether to proceed or not. But having an ordinance in front of them makes it crystal clear what action we're contemplating. And it kind of strips away the, maybe we should add a second fountain and, a different park. Or I think it just narrows the focus of, is the value of this park as for its alternative uses or proposed uses sufficient that we should not move forward with the ordinance?
Well, to me, like, the reason I'm asking for that session before introducing an ordinance is because I don't think we fully discussed the other financing options that Nate has mentioned, like tax or debt. And I think we could have a better discussion if that were on the table first and considered before putting an ordinance to sell out there.
we've got 4 people in attendance right now. My concern, going back to the comment of fait accompli, is, will people see the nuance that we are introducing the ordinance in order to just start the public hearing process, as opposed to the introduction of the ordinance
Means that
is a
you're gonna
baked, yeah,
sell.
it's baked. They're selling it. They're just going through the motion. And I would hope the people here realize that is not the case. We're trying to dig through all issues from all angles. Mr. Carmichael's comments, and I went back and read the ones emailed, 18 months ago, are all very good and valid. But to Nate's point, we're also balancing that against what we're trying to do for the future of the town. And if we can include in this conversation, hey, not selling this means that we may take on debt, or we may look at increasing taxes as ways to generate additional revenue to create the money that we need for the priorities that we are doing. If people are okay with that, right? We looked at selling this as a means of, we're struggling with, is it its highest and best use, setting aside that green space is a valid and good use. But it could, right, that money could go to all the things we've mentioned, securing other green space in other parts of the town that we want, that would benefit stormwater and prevent them from being redeveloped. Whereas this, we believe, has very intrinsic redevelopment, you know, because it is a lot. But to also open up that conversation and have people have to struggle with what we're struggling with, to say, you know, I want to preserve this as a park or as green space. And so if you come back and bring up debt service, or you come back and bring up raising taxes later, I will support that, because I understand what you're doing is trying not to sell this park and meet the future needs of the town.
Yeah, I think you laid that out very well, and I think that's what needs to be communicated in the next meeting, whether it's the introduction of an ordinance or it's a pre-meeting before the ordinance.
And I don't, well, and so I'm now leaning, you know, toward Ann of, I don't want people to think they're coming into a meeting where they need to bring, you know, pitchforks and torches, that it's the goose is cooked. We're gonna sell this thing. We're just going through the political theater motions. That is not the case. So if that means, hey, we'll set the ordinance aside and let's do the public hearing first, great. I want people to know these are the real things that we are thinking about on both sides. We have feelings and thoughts, but I think people are seeing that we are struggling with them ourselves.
Right.
And we are weighing whether or not it's in the best interest of the town now and into the future to take debt or to raise taxes or to do other things to finance the priorities that we've set for the town.
Right.
This is just one financing mechanism.
Right.
And it is a limited financing mechanism. It is only going to get what the market gives us, and we have priorities in excess of what this park can provide.
Well,
And that's what I
yeah.
think we need to be careful to convey. I think that's a really good point, that let's just pretend we could get $600,000 for this property.
Mhm.
That's only going to save us $600,000 on a
On debt,
different
service.
use.
Yes.
on different
And
use.
so I don't think we want to get into the new municipal building will cost $3 million. And so people, here's what you're looking at as a tax increase to fund a $3 million property, because we're not. All we're doing is really looking at the avoided tax increase or debt, whatever we're going to call it, of a $600,000 bucket of money. And I think that will make it simpler for people, because if we say and I'm just making up the $3 million number, if we say that we're looking at $3 million, but I don't want them balancing the taxes required to pay for a $3 million building versus hanging on to park. So I would like it to be a narrow, this is what we're avoiding by selling this asset.
Right. I think there's
If
a
it-
way you could do that, though, in the context of, I mean, I think you made some very valid points about you can't bind future councils to decisions about these capital outlays. So I think it would need to be the range of potential acquisitions and capital outlays that we're looking at for future investment.
Yeah, because when we put money in the capital improvements budget, it's really identified for something.
Mhm.
So that's why, you know, we don't just put, you know, $600,000 just with question mark,
Yes.
you know, so it has to be assigned for something.
Mhm.
So, you know, whether it's to help build the public works building or whether it's to get land somewhere else in the town, you know, that can be changed in the CIP, but you know, we again, we don't put it down with a question mark. We'll figure it out later. So it's
Okay,
still
so
not
coming
clear on
around.
how are
Yeah.
we.
How we're proceeding. Connor, you started to say.
So I want people to come and have an open and honest conversation, feeling that we truly are here to hear all sides. And so if that means a public hearing area, you know, a listening session, whatever we want to call it first, then I'm in favor of that. So they don't think that just because we're taking a procedural move, that it's, you know, it is misinterpreted as a done deal.
Right.
So am I hearing that at the November meeting that maybe we have dedicate the first hour to a listening session regarding this? but there's not going to be a resolution on that agenda, we would look at doing that in December, depending on what we hear. I think it would be important for us to sit down together, though, in a work session after the listening
Mhm.
session,
Yeah.
though,
Yeah.
so that we can discuss it amongst ourselves.
Yes, with
I think that would be really important.
I agree with that, and with the request, with the town staff be able to provide at the November meeting, before opening it up to public comment, some information about the array of potential acquisitions and capital outlays and options around debt and tax financing, even though we're not linking one to one. It's an array, so that we've got that information available for public reaction.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
And does that give enough time then, if there were to be an ordinance introduced in December?
Yeah, I mean, we're not getting anything official. We're just, I mean, we already know some of our avenues for debt service. You know, trying to figure out a property tax increase is gonna be a little more difficult because, you know, it'd be really easy to raise taxes to get $600,000. But, you know, are we doing it just for that property value? Are we doing it long term? You know,
Sure.
that's,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
it's gonna, but.
Yep.
No, this is good.
And I think Nate's, your question to him was though, if we wait to introduce something until December,
Yes.
does that give enough time? If we were to proceed forward to introduce it?
That would be, put us into February, I think.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
You guys are talking about what I need you to do, so when we start putting together our FY26 budget, we know whether this is
Okay.
on the table or off the table for us, and we need to
Mhm.
figure out other
Got it.
financial resources, so
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
To that point, just looking at the calendar, that would be November 13th. Is the next
Do you
one.
want to meet in, like at 6:30?
I just want to make sure that we didn't have any conflicts that needed to.
Work around.
Any
Yeah.
volleyball games that we know about? Season over?
Depends on what happens in playoffs.
Oh, God.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Wait,
geez.
I have town council blocked from 7 to 10 already on my
All
calendar.
right.
7 to 12.
On the 12th?
The 13th. you said.
13th.
Excuse me,
right?
third, I was thinking Tuesday for some reason. Okay, so, do you want to,
6:30, yeah.
6:30?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll dedicate the first hour.
6:30 to midnight?
We haven't had a
Leave it
really
open.
long
Let's
meeting
leave
in
it
a
open.
while. This is actually pushing it right now. Okay. All right, thank you for that was a good conversation.
All I ask, Zachary, everybody you want to talk to, just convey to them that we want this is, we're trying to put everything on the table and hear from everybody.
Okay,
Mayor, do you want us to send out a postcard for this?
wouldn't be a bad idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to create a portal of some sort for people who can't come if they want to share an email or something that they can send it
An
to?
email Alex.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I don't know if she wants to undertake
smiled.
that.
Yes.
Okay, I just think that would be helpful for the
Mhm.
people that can't make it to that meeting. Okay, cool. All right, I know we have our town attorney is here. We are actually going to close this session, but I would like to finish, get down to the town manager. We need to discuss something quickly with her before we move down to the third resolution. She's got a couple of some information that she needs to provide to us before we go down there. All right, so let's finish the
are we gonna-
this section.
You want to finish the
3 and 4.
top?
Okay.
Yeah, I want to finish the top. So I think we're done with number 2, so let's move down to number 3.
You're putting on in.
Sure, happy to quickly.
Go quickly now. Come up
You'll
behind
comment.
you, yeah.
So you may have seen, it was discussed at the last town council meeting that we are establishing a parking task force to examine ways that we could improve parking and congestion and mobility in the town center. We put out an article in the October Journal, and we're asking for nominations, ideally by tomorrow. I think we've gotten
7.
7.
Okay.
1 during this meeting.
Okay, excellent. We're asking for nominations from residents and business representatives who are interested in helping us examine and analyze our current parking capacity and needs and come up with short-term and long-term recommendations. And we're hoping that we would be able to kick off our work by the end of October, early November-ish. We'll see.
Okay.
And I think wanted to flag for folks that we anticipate needing to engage an outside firm or consultant to help with some analysis.
Yes, that's, yeah, what we wanted to make sure that
Yeah, it's
everybody
in the
was
CIP.
comfortable
It's in
with,
the budget.
that, including you and Connor.
Oh,
That
and
is-
I very much know that we need to do.
Okay,
an
good.
outside consultant.
Okay,
And I've talked with Montgomery County Planning, Carrie Sanders specifically. She is more than willing to make the county's parking
they'll just
experts
say
available.
less.
They will, but what they want to do is focus parking in specific areas. I very loosely talked about some of what we're trying to accomplish, and she's like, actually, you're thinking about it in the right way. This 500-foot walking shed, that it doesn't need to be parking for every building in front of every building. You just have to have it in strategically the right spots. And then she really encouraged us to do something that Ann and I already had on our plan, which is that the town really should begin to look at parking management solutions. And they have experts who have done all this because the research shows and they have shown is, if you don't have a mechanism to enforce these spots to be turned over, to incentivize people to stay the amount they were meant to stay and then leave, you don't create the kind of parking that you need, active parking. You create the potential for just car storage for people.
Does that, well, I think most of the spaces that we have around here that they would get turned over, more than, I guess, unless you lived, you're just parking your car there illegally, but, are we talking about like, workers that, we're gonna be
No,
there
she-
for 6 to 8 hours
No, she
for a
really
work
means,
day, or?
like a park mobile solution.
Uh-huh,
And then you need some sort of enforcement mechanism to go with it, right?
Okay.
So that people feel compelled, and Park Mobile was the example she used. It's great because it's on your phone, it's telling you, you're seeing the clock, so you just feel you have to move the car, but that works so long as there's good enforcement where,
yeah,
you
that
get a
comes
parking ticket.
enforcement, and it
Yeah.
also comes in, are we charging them to park?
But I think we're getting into the things that
Yeah.
we're saying, the
Yes.
task force and the consultant will.
Okay.
help
Yes.
analyze.
To
We're
sort out, okay.
Previewing.
So
Okay.
yes, these are all topics, do we have street parking, right? How is it sent? Part of it's just to create an inventory, make sure our inventory is accurate for staff, right?
Right,
Because we get requests routinely from residents to alter our signage and restrictions along street parking. And so this gives us an opportunity to use this committee to inventory our streets and, what is signed and regulated now, what is not, what is regulated by permit, what is just regulated by time, is it the right mix?
okay, and
because-
will they do, directional signage too? Designing that type of thing to direct people to
I
where?
think
park-
part of it's like a wayfinding system,
Yeah,
right?
that would
Oh,
be,
wayfinding,
I think
okay.
part of it would be for
Sure.
consultants to tell us like what works, like
I
what kind
mean,
of.
I would
things.
imagine, and Connor, you and I
Yeah.
talked a little bit
Yeah.
about this. Here we are doing it live. I would imagine like scoping the work of what we need a consultant to help with will be one of
Yeah.
the first things the task
Okay.
force has to do.
Okay,
And then we'll figure out pricing
It's gonna be a lot
and
of work.
cost
for you
range.
guys.
So this is.
so maybe we'll need money for that, pick that in the
Well,
budget.
no, it's so needed.
We have funds for a consultant. We put
Yeah.
it in specifically for the DRB because we
Mhm.
thought something else was gonna move a little
Right.
quicker than it is. So there's some funds there.
Yeah.
For traffic, and we've used a traffic consultant before. And we can provide the committee with that report, and they can decide if they want to reach out to them again or use a different
Mhm.
firm, so.
Okay, good. All right, does anybody have any questions about, number 3? Joe?
Yes, thank you. I saw the QR code in the town journal and tried to download it, and I see that it's restricted to people who have Google accounts. It clicks over to a Google Docs account. Not everybody uses Google products because of their intrusiveness and their privacy policies. So is there another alternate way to download an application? Should one be interested in doing so?
I mean, Joe, you could certainly email, I think. Well,
Email
not
whom?
filling- just email the town.
I brought this to the attention of the town manager
And he brought it to my attention to bring up tonight.
okay.
You-
So what's the procedure then?
Without filling in the form, which I think is your concern, you can go to the form, which I think you've already done. You can see the information we're looking for. If you just put all that into an email and send it to us, that'd be great.
Yeah,
The biggest thing we're looking for is, who are you and how do we get a hold of you? Your town affiliation, we're trying to make sure that this is a representative committee that has both residents and business owners.
Right, I understand that. I just want to know how, if I'm interested in filling
Yep.
out the application,
Just
how the
take all the
best way to
questions that
do
are on
it.
the form and just answer them in the body of an email and send it over
To whom?
to the town.
To the town.
What email address do you want?
He can email me.
Please send it to Matt Hoffman, town manager,
All right, thanks.
and then he'll get it to me and Ann, and we will. Yeah, and so thank you for, happy to do that, Joe.
Yeah, it's just, the assumption that everybody's using Google and Google Docs, I think is a misplaced assumption.
It's not
And
an
that's
assumption,
good reason
Joe.
not to use it,
It's simply a tool. We could have chosen any other tool and we could have had the same criticism about that tool. I have no opposition to you not liking Google, just email over your information.
I'm just thinking options rather than restricting it to one application form or another. So I'll do that. Thanks.
Any other questions good on the direction? Okay, number 4, Town Hall, office renovation.
Council, we are working with Margaret Upton. She has provided a sketch plan for a new floor plan for the town offices, which is located on the 3rd floor here at Town Hall. She's currently working with an engineer and a contractor to put up a price so we could potentially put out an RFP. Nothing's official at this moment, but we just wanted to provide the council and the public the site plan of what potentially could happen. Obviously, we don't have pricing yet. We have not put out any RFPs. It's not budgeted for. We just kind of wanted to let the public know what we are looking at potentially for the offices at Town Hall.
and I'm curious just to hear a little bit. The town staff, has the town staff looked at this schematic and?
I would say, as the council knows, there's not a lot of room upstairs for
Yeah.
us. There's 5 of us up there. We don't have a lot of workspace. We really have nowhere to kind of have a break room or anything like that. This plan would allow us an opportunity to give us some workspace. It does secure the offices more than they are now, which is also another reason why we're looking at this. That's basically comment coming from Maryland Municipal League from some of the other incidents that have happened at town halls. This would give us an opportunity to also allow individuals that are coming into town hall to know where to go. One of the biggest issues we have is someone walks into town hall, they don't know where to go.
Yeah.
They end up in the drill hall, they end up downstairs at the cable station. This would at least get them upstairs and have a window that.
Well, they go right into Alex's
They
office.
go right in Alex's office,
Right.
No, I agree with the
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Better use of the space. I'm just curious if the initial sketch has been shared with, if you've gotten input from town staff.
Yes, yeah.
And people are feeling good about it.
I would
or-
say it was favorable.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that as well, and I think because,
They were excited.
the doors could also have a fob that if you really needed to, lock down, you
Yeah, yeah.
could just create a fob system and
Yeah.
people would get.
That's
in
all
there.
I wanted to know.
Yeah, it was, I was a little concerned, but the staff was a little more favorable towards what potentially could happen than maybe even I thought. So.
Yeah, okay, good.
I just had a quick question around what happens to the Alex's office now?
So it's
Gets
gonna get
raised up?
raised.
It gets raised, okay,
So
because I was
it-
wondering, there was no steps.
Yeah.
It actually has the same roof line,
Built floor up. to match-
ceiling line as the mayor's office. So the plan is to raise it up. And then basically, you know, if you walk into my office, that would become
Hallway.
the
Oh,
hallway.
I see.
And then you would walk all the way, you know, you'd have the different doors at the ends, and then we are, Margaret believes that, and you know, she's just checking with engineering, that we can take the existing roof access, make a third office on that location,
Next to the elevator.
next to the elevator, and then still have enough room to have an open area with seating and then the front reception.
Yeah, the ladder to access the roof would just be one of
It
those
would be
that
a
you would
pull
bring
down.
down
Yeah.
like you have in
Yeah.
an
What would
attic.
happen to the bottom part of Alex's office?
It would just get raised. So like instead of
Fill
walking
in
up the
more
steps and
subfloor.
seeing a door, you would see a wall.
Yeah, but what's below, what's at that wall, like where her office is now, because it starts a floor above.
So she would just get raised up, and then the door would enter into her office at the same plane as the mayor's office.
Let me put it a different way. Is there the possibility for that dead space now that is under the
what I'm
floor
talking
of
about.
Alex's office to maybe be storage or something else?
Probably not. You're only raising it, what, maybe 3 or
5
4
feet?
feet?
Yeah, it's not a full floor.
Oh,
No, no,
I
but
mean,
flags
yeah,
and.
it's-
but
it's-
big
yeah,
and things.
Connor, anything they'd put in there would be there in 100 years.
Well,
It's not.
well, you
gonna
know,
be
they
a
could
good
stash Connor's candy from Labor Day
Yeah,
there.
well, there is Margaret has proposed a storage unit at
Yeah.
the end of the hallway.
idea. Yeah,
Okay.
Which would
Okay.
help address,
it's like putting stuff under your bed.
yeah.
you
That's
know.
small, okay,
I-
right,
And no need to like have an extra place to build new ductwork or
So-
HVAC underneath
Yeah.
that
No,
raised.
that is one of the reasons why Margaret is working with the engineer. We do have to move some of the ductwork.
Yeah.
They did come and do a walkthrough. They're confident that they don't have to move the smoke detection system. But there is a few areas that they'll have to move the ducts. It would be new lighting, new ceiling tile. And we did request in the pricing to put in, to refurbish the existing hardwood floor under the carpet, which is there. So,
That's nice.
the plumbing
So-
would need to move too, no?
there's a little bit of a plumbing move. You'll
Moving the
notice that
sink
we are gonna
to
get
Susan's
a
office.
real
Outside
sink that
fridge,
you can fit a coffee
Not
pot
a
under.
cocktail sink.
And, you know, once we have some pricing and a better idea of what this might cost, we'll bring it back to the council. And see if it's something that, you know, potentially we could handle under the CIP if the council allows us to move forward, or if it's something we need to put in the FY26 budget, so.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay, all right, that completes that section. Oh, did anybody have any questions regarding the town hall office renovation? Okay, don't see any hands.
I have one last question.
Okay.
Sorry, drill hall balcony.
Mhm.
Is there any necessary improvements that are needed to that?
Yeah, well,
What they
internally,
do with- Yeah,
well, internally, what we are going to do is, if you've ever stepped out on the balcony, there's 3 steps down.
yeah,
The public works crew is going to build the steps up, so it's a
Flush.
flat, yeah.
Yeah.
We will need to raise the railing a little bit. It is quite dangerous out there. I will say, most of the staff cannot reach the shelving that we put out there. So this would allow them, it would be a safer.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
use
a
it.
nice winter project for the.
yeah.
for the
So
crew.
we have talked to them, and they're gonna build the floor out and get on the same
Mhm.
planes.
Good.
Okay, good. Okay. Did you give me any language about closing the meeting, or you just wanna, wing it?
Motion.
Move to close, with the opportunity to consult with counsel on legal matters.
Okay.
I will step out in the hall when we're finished, so you can come back in, okay?
Yeah. So we are going to take a few minutes. I don't think we'll be more than about 10-15 minutes. Do you think that's about right?
I think that's correct.
Okay, so anyone on Zoom, we're gonna put you back into the waiting room, and then we'll come back and pull you back as soon as we're done. So I need to motion to close this meeting so that we can consult with our town attorney on a legal issue.
I'll make a motion to close the meeting to consult with the town attorney on a legal issue.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. Okay, we'll be back as soon as we can. Sorry? Is she even there?
You can just throw all of it.
Okay,
I didn't know she was allowed to be on it.
Oh,
and she should probably go into the waiting room if she can.
Melissa, is that a problem if I put you in the waiting room? Because you're not in charge of the meeting, right? So is that okay? Will that interrupt the recording?
I think Alex is talking to me, and yes, she can put me in.
Are we ready?
Matt will
Okay.
wanna know
All right.
how that goes.
Okay, welcome back. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. So we're gonna move the agenda around a little bit. We're gonna go down to ordinance, resolutions, and regulations. Do you mind if we start with one, or you wanna go with three first? So,
Let's go with one. That should
One?
be quick. 'Cause we
Okay.
already kind of
Yeah.
approved it.
Yeah.
okay, this is the variance for the fence that we talked about last.
Council, before you is
Perfect timing. Go ahead, Matt.
before you this evening, is resolution number R-16 2024, resolution of the mayor and town council of Kensington. Approving a variance to allow the installation of a 6-foot fence within the front plane of the property located at 3417 Flyers Mill Road. Council motion to have staff approve a variance in favor. As you'll remember, this is a corner lot. It has an existing 6-foot cedar fence. They are looking to make it vinyl. However, since the fence was originally installed, our code had changed, which requires a 4-foot fence in the front plane. And this resolution would approve the 6-foot within the front plane.
And the adjoining neighbor, just for the record, did not comment
We
on it
didn't-
either
we-
way.
We did not receive a comment from
Right.
any of the adjacent or confronting properties.
All right, any further questions, council?
None.
Anyone in the audience? Okay, can I get a motion? If you talk, you have to go to the mic, sorry. I know, for the record, just have to give your name and just a street.
Yeah.
I'm not from here.
Okay,
That's okay.
Sorry.
I'm just curious what like this whole meeting is about. Like specifically.
well,
Is it-
the town of Kensington is a municipality, so we're our own government in this little town. And so we are doing the work of the government, which everybody,
What do you mean by fence in this?
This
case?
is a house that is replacing a fence. And because the code changed, but they want to continue to keep a 6-foot, we're giving them a variance and allowing them to do it.
Okay, it has nothing to do with me specifically?
No.
Nope.
No,
Okay,
nope,
alright, just that.
no, just replacement of a fence. Yep. Okay. Motion,
Sure. I move that we adopt resolution number R-16 2024 to allow variance on the property at 3417 to have a 6-foot fence in the front plane.
okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Number 2,
Okay, resolution number R-17 2024 is a resolution of the mayor and town council of Kensington to adopt the Montgomery County Hazard Mitigation Plan for 2024. So about every 4 or 5 years, Montgomery County is required to update their hazard mitigation plan. There was actually an amendment 2 years ago. I'm sorry, they redid it 2 years ago, and there was an amendment in 2024. Montgomery County has asked that we readopt their 2024 hazard mitigation plan. Essentially, what this means is if there was an incident in the town, like a tornado or something like that, what it allows the town to do is piggyback on Montgomery County contractors to, for example, remove debris. We just need to establish like a debris field, and then we'll have access to their contractors, and we're part of any kind of agreements or contractors that they use. So,
okay. Any questions from the council? Any questions from the audience? Okay, could I get a motion?
I'm sorry, just,
Oh, you got a question?
well. It wasn't in the packet, is it?
Yeah,
It
that's what I
was.
It is.
Oh,
No, no,
well,
it
the
wasn't.
FEMA
No.
plans are.
Oh, the
No,
FEMA
I
plan.
put the fact sheet in there. The actual document's like 65 pages. I have it, I did send it to you
I didn't
really
see
late.
it. Yeah, okay.
If you want it, I'll send it to you. It's the Montgomery County Hazard Mitigation Plan. And I'll send you the document as soon as I go upstairs.
Is it this FEMA planning one or Montgomery County has their own?
No, it's the plan that's based on the guidance.
Yeah.
for the-
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
We have the,
So there's like,
Yeah, we don't have it.
so there's training
we
sessions.
didn't print 60.
Yeah, I
No,
didn't,
that's
Page
fine, but the
document.
resolution itself, it's only a couple pages, right?
yeah.
Well, the resolution
Oh,
is
yeah.
right here.
Number 17.
No,
Number
I know, I
17.
You don't have it?
16 and 18. Can I just see 17 real quick?
You good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so everybody knows they can get the plan if they want to get the plan? Okay, all right, did we make a motion?
No.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number R 17 2024. To adopt the Montgomery County Hazard Mitigation Plan for 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The plan, you're gonna have to go online to see the plan. Well, if you give Matt an email, he can send you the link.
I can send it to you. Yeah. Send it to you.
Okay, number 3,
Okay, resolution number R 18 2024 is a resolution of the mayor and town council of Kensington to approve the First Amendment to the purchase agreement with 9323B and 9327 Fraser Avenue LLC to acquire 10528 St. Paul Street to make provision for the continuation of a lease through January 31st, 2025 with current tenant MXD Services LLC to accept the assignment of the lease between 9323B and 9327 Fraser Avenue LLC and MXD Services tenant for the period of November 1st, 2024 through January 31st, 2025, and to approve the form of a second amendment to lease between 9323B and 9327 Fraser Avenue LLC, the landlord, and MXD Services, the tenant, extending the lease through January 31st, 2025.
okay. I'll see, have any questions? Anybody from the audience have a question? Okay, can we get a motion?
Sure, I'll move that we adopt resolution number R 18 2024 as substantially written.
I was gonna see.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank
Lauren, you're
you.
good?
All
Thank you,
right.
Council.
Nope,
Nope,
none of that applies.
nope.
Nope. Number 4,
Resolution number R 19 2024 is a resolution of the mayor and town council of Kensington authorizing a contract with Ecology Services Refuse and Recycling LLC for the term of 1 year beginning January 1st, 2025, and for 3 additional 1-year options to provide trash, recycling, yard waste, and bulk trash services. We have currently a 6-year, we are ending a 6-year contract with Ecology. We are in the final year of a 1-year term. This is for a 1-year extension at our base rate with an increase of 5%. We are technically piggybacking off of a bid proposal accepted by Garrett Park.
thank you, Sue Ellen.
Thank you.
And then within the 1-year agreement, there's 3 1-year optional agreements. What they have done going forward is that they've experienced some problems recently with long-term contracts where the 12-month CPI basically costs, labor costs are exceeding what they built into the contract. So typical of what Ecology would do or any other collector would be about 2.5% a year. And they can't continue to do that. So what they're doing is they're tying the 3 optional 1 years to the 12-month CPI, which is the same thing the town does for staff or any kind of offsetting contracts. So it would allow, instead of doing a 3-year contract, we did a 1 year with 3 1-year options. So this is for trash, brush, and recycling only. It is for the same collections that we have currently now, so nothing would change. So
Is this the way of the future for especially labor intent?
probably, yeah. I mean, they've been running into some problems for a few years, especially with the Montgomery County contracts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think this is what, and the ecology has Montgomery County contracts.
Right.
This is pretty much what they're gonna do, and it's the standard going forward. It's what they did with Chevy Chase View, it's what they did with Garrett Park, and what they're asking us to do as well.
Okay,
So,
I mean, I just think all, because, you know, the last one we had ended up going out of business because he couldn't
yeah,
keep up
Yeah.
with the, you know, the costs.
Yeah.
Okay,
So if we end up doing the composting with them, what would that mean? We just amend this?
it would be a separate contract.
Okay,
It would be a separate contract, because what we have discussed with the ecology team is, and I hope this would never happen, but if we did a composting program and it did not go well, they were open, at least what they've told us verbally without a contract for composting, is that we could break the contract. Now. for the
but it would
amount-
only be for a year.
But if we do a 1 year with.
If we do a 1 year, yeah, so if we did a composting contract with them, we have numbers for year 1.
Mhm.
The contract that we did with them would be set up the exact same way as this is. I don't, you know, it gives us an out if it's not going well. The problem is for the upfront costs that we would put into a composting. I don't think it's something we want to walk away from after 1 year, but it would give us options. What it also allows us to do is they are going to allow us to potentially amend these contracts, the trash collection, if we find that the composting contract is doing very well. We could remove the second trash collection. It doesn't mean that we're not proposing it. It's the options there. So,
that's good. Flexible.
That's not in here.
It's not
No,
in here.
he's
So-
forecasting.
We are
what
binding
what we would
ourselves for
do
1 year.
so like next October.
Yeah.
Let's say we start a composting program in March. And it's going very well, and we are seeing our second trash collections on Fridays with minimal trash. And it gives us an idea that it would be something that we would entertain dropping. They are more than willing to negotiate with us to remove that second collection.
Yeah.
So,
And just, I think, you know, the Sustainable Kensington Committee has been looking into options for composting or dealing with food waste. And so we've gotten some initial information back that we're going to discuss at the SK meeting, and then we'll bring back to the council.
In November.
but, yeah, I mean, as the council knows, ecology's been with us for 6 years. They got through COVID with us,
Yeah.
which was a very, very challenging time for them, specifically with keeping CDL drivers on staff. We are very happy with them. We have a good relationship with them. They are a third professional contractor, and I think the staff would all agree that they are the best contractor that we've had. So,
Well, I
Well,
would-
and our neighboring municipalities also are using
are
them,
now
so-
using them
yeah.
based off
Yeah.
our recommendations, so.
Well, I am comfortable with this because of the terms you've described. The fact that it's 1 year and it's giving us options to make adjustments,
Yeah.
to me, I feel like that makes sense to proceed.
Okay.
The rates are in the resolution, if you're curious.
Mhm.
And we did provide I have the contract proposal in the sales.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, could I get a motion?
Should I do this one? All right. I move to approve resolution number R-19 2024. Authorizing the contract with Ecology Services.
Okay, there's a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, council.
Yeah, keep going.
So we amended the agenda this evening, to add 2 additional resolutions. R-20-2024 is a resolution of the mayor and council of the town of Kensington authorizing a contract agreement with playground specialists for the purchase and installation of ADA playground equipment and surfacing at St. Paul Park. This funding for this is through the Community Parks and Playground Grant. We are requesting a resolution because technically we are bypassing our bid requirements to use play specs to install the equipment. This is the formal process that we use for the pavilion at St. Paul Park as well. And we just wanted a formal resolution bypassing the play specs to proceed with the project.
And this is the one where we'll be reimbursed by the state once we've purchased it, correct?
So the awarding, the award from Community Parks and Playground is slightly more than what the bid proposal was. So we are asking that the resolution be adopted not to exceed the CP&P just in case there's some overage or something. And I would defer to Councilmember Crimmins, but there will be a second and third phase of this project. We are discussing this phase 2 with Spring Bilingual to resurface the existing playground area, where they have mentioned that they would help provide some funding for that. And then phase 3 would be to adjust the park slightly so we could get an additional ADA piece of equipment at the park. So those are currently not on the plans, but there are second and third phases to what we're trying to do on ADA.
Where does the change out for the mulch occur in the other phase 2?
Phase 2.
Okay.
So
Now, do we have to pay for that? Are we paying for that?
that's part of what Matt was saying. We are talking with Spring Bilingual to share
Okay.
that cost because it helps go to their annual certification for safety.
Okay,
Because they use, they rent the use of our town playground equipment to meet their outdoor play
Right.
space needs. Inside of that, the certification that's done annually requires ground cover and impact zones. Where, we replace that mulch every year, but it's 3 inches in one area and 6 inches in another under impact zones. This surface eliminates all of that.
and we're okay with, the state's okay with replacing of mulch on our own. Did we get that clear? Don't talk back there,
They,
Susan.
they will not give us a grant to make a change to a CP&P. grant.
Well, I understand that, but if we're paying for it though,
Yes.
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that's why we're phasing this, doing a phase as opposed to including it.
Okay.
within the Phase 1 from the CP&P original grant funds
okay.
that were awarded July 1st, I believe, or whatever the
Okay.
formal date is. So.
Well, add that into the things of improvements that is gonna
We
be
do
very
need
costly.
to create the QR codes for the park
Mhm.
that the council has asked us to do, so we can create those and place them at the park. So it
Um,
has,
Yeah, I'm happy to show anybody. We got the schematic, like the visual designs from Playground Specialist. For phase 1 adds new things. Phase 2 is just replacing the ground cover in the existing. Phase 3 is adding another element, and moving this actually doesn't show it, but moving the walking path around a little bit. This is what we would build up QR code, and then we can stake those QR codes around the park so people can just look it up and.
Okay, well, they
visually
have
see
to
it.
start phase 1 in what, February,
So,
March?
yeah, what we were told is we did not make their fall schedule. We are like project number 1 for the spring schedule, which is
Around
February or March, depending on how our winter goes.
Okay, it's very exciting.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, any further questions from the council?
No, thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, can I get a motion?
Yes, I move that we adopt resolution number R-20-2024.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Council.
All right, number
Um,
6.
The last resolution we have this evening is resolution number R-21-2024. A resolution of the mayor and council of the town of Kensington authorizing a contract agreement with Rose Brand East for the fabrication and installation of new curtains for the windows and stage within the drill hall at the Kensington Town Hall. This resolution, as the prior resolution, is going to require an extra majority of the vote. We had a difficult time finding a contractor that could do this. We ended up with 2 contacts. The first contact provided us with a price, but it did not meet the requirements of the fire marshal. So we reached back out to the playgroups and they recommended this company out of New Jersey. And so we have a proposal for them. We did put a specific line item for this in anticipation in the FY25 budget. But we needed to bring it back for formal approval from the council. If you'd like us to move forward with, this would basically replace the curtains around the windows, the curtain on the stage, and the skirting around the stage. And we would be switching the color to
Nice.
Bermuda, which is a navy blue, which was approved by both playgroups.
I assume we're going to take off the $2,000 sales tax on this contract.
Yeah, I think there was a miscellaneous one there too, wasn't there? And I need Shirley to call Michael as well because he has the wrong color on the proposal.
You're saying you're going to
Bermuda.
Bermuda, right?
Yeah. So we
Okay.
gotta switch the color on the proposal. So,
Okay.
Yeah, darker's better.
Yeah. Yeah, where does it say the color on the?
he has the black on the drapes.
Okay,
And we were gonna go with the Bermuda color. It's a navy blue.
Right.
Whoever has the palettes.
Oh,
Yeah.
this miscellaneous charge is for curbside freight. Matt can pick it up in his car.
they don't know that we have a
That's a-
trial or
The,
forklift.
they are gonna remove the existing, if the council approves, they would remove the existing curtains. All the curtains are down, we are gonna have our paint contractor come in and paint around the windows, because they need the curtains off. So really, if this is approved, Shirley's gonna have to kind of work with them, our paint contractor and the playgroups to figure out when we can actually do this. There's not a huge window with the playgroups coming in. So this might be like after January. Before we can actually move forward, so
Well, I know she just put scheduled noise library in there for a
for a dance.
for a dance.
Is there a production timeline? I mean, can they?
2 weeks, Michael told me about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Any other questions? All right, any questions from the audience? Okay, all right, can I get a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number R 2024 as amended to remove the tax from the price
And the color.
and
And
amend
to
the
amend the
color,
Right.
so that we can proceed with installing new curtains for the windows and stage within the drill hall.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I
Okay,
thank the council.
now this would be normally where we'd say, oh, we're almost done. We gotta go back. Okay. So where did we leave off?
Town manager and staff.
There we go. Well, what I would like to hear from first is our council, what they have to report. So we're just gonna go down the line here. Darren?
I
Anything?
don't have anything to add.
Okay. Ann?
The only thing I can think of is that Sustainable Kensington is meeting on October 16th at 7:30 and Greenscape meeting to be determined. We're moving it from our original plan.
Okay, yeah. Do you want to just say what Greenscape is focusing on?
Sure, as I reported before, we have gone on site and looked at Ernest Memorial Park to figure out what could be done to sort of maintain the space a little better. And so a next step, we've done some research, but a next step is to meet with an arborist on site to look at trimming trees and potential trees for removal. So we're working with Alex to schedule a time to do that during the daytime,
Okay,
and we'll report back.
all right, sounds good. All right, Nate?
So we had our first combined mobility and traffic committee and pedestrian bicycling access and safety working group committee meeting on Monday, which I thought was really nice. There were actually 2 traditional MTC members there that wouldn't normally otherwise participate
Mhm.
in the PBAS. So the two updates from that are, actually, most of my updates are with that. So upcoming next weekend on the 19th, we have our 4th annual Walktober event. Be great to see all of you
I signed
there.
up.
If you're in town,
I
come,
did sign up.
please.
Yeah.
I think we should get pretty good turnout because we've done a lot more promotion this
Mhm.
year. We have a lot of participating businesses for the vouchers, and we've agreed with Carmen's to do a sweet treat at the end where we're splitting the cost with them for anyone who participates. So that should be nice. The MTA grant with, the federal
BIPA?
grant, the federal grant for the tracks, grade crossing elimination
Oh,
grant
okay.
was submitted, I think 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah.
By MTA on our behalf as a partner. So thank you everyone for agreeing to put that forward. I think Matt said they were really grateful for the council for
Mhm.
offering the match. So we'll find out in the spring on that. We'll have an SHA call next week.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that will be good to
Mhm.
kind of get on the same page with them, back on the same page with them, because some things have been happening around town that we haven't been on the same page with them on.
Yeah, they haven't, he did not hear back from
I've not heard
from
back
her
yet.
regarding the
Uh,
Connecticut Avenue.
So we emailed our assistant district engineer to clarify the paving
Yeah.
on Connecticut Avenue, and I haven't heard back.
Did you measure it?
Yes, it is 10.5, 11, and 11.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And it's just from they did
From
not
Plank.
redo, well, yeah, they just went just beyond Warner, but they didn't, and then they went up to Knowles, but they didn't go past the crosswalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the issue was they repaved it, but didn't take into consideration the recommendations that are in the BIPA plan.
Yeah,
To,
but I don't even know why they repaved it. I don't think Chen Yu knows why they
I
repaved
don't,
it.
I mean, I can't figure, I was telling the mayor, whether it was an emergency or maybe they had leftover asphalt
They're
from
like,
another
let's just,
paving job.
let's just do this part of
The
Connecticut.
seams are not even, so I'm curious to see the response.
Maybe it wasn't.
Cause
a
I'm not
safe-
even sure the pothole had been actually reported.
Yeah.
Don't know.
So, yeah, so we'll get to the bottom of it, I'm sure, when we meet with her, maybe next week. And last but not least, I went to the Kensington Parkwood Elementary School
Oh, how'd that go?
Walkshed
Yeah.
event last night, which was soliciting, it was the county soliciting feedback on their recommendations from the 2019 study on the 1 mile radius walkshed, which doesn't include any of the town at all. But it was interesting, mostly recommending sidewalk improvements. I raised the point that they should be considering also crossings at key intersections. And I think they'll take that up, but it was nice. Leslie Olson came, and there were probably like 15 people there.
Good. Good. All right, Connor?
The last month has been several of the listening sessions around attainable housing. They're all online, you can rewatch them. In conversations with a couple of county council members before and after, they really are trying to digest all of the options in the plan. But I thought what was interesting was hearing several of them realize that the numbers that are being thrown around for the number of units of houses that in total are needed and what that would mean on a per year basis, and what is proposed in AHS, that it's a tool, it is not a solution. And that's why the more they look at, they're really trying to look at all aspects of zoning to help increase housing production. And so the biggest thing I can stress is if you have strong feelings, just, there's ample ways to communicate them to the county council. They're continuing to take emails, questions, and feedback that will lead into our session on the 15th that we spoke about earlier. Second would be that's really about it. Oh, are you gonna bring up Summit Avenue and Kate?
Yes,
Okay, then I'm done.
yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let me just quickly
Oh,
get.
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
I did have one more.
Mhm.
It has not been as well publicized. But it did trickle down through the PTA, one of the PTA emails. The county is October, November, they are reopening their boundary study process. Now, this process will go all the way out to 2026. They have an 8-phase plan for it, including bringing back consultants, and like step 6 of this 8-phase plan is community engagement. But they, of like the 31 clusters, they are expecting to redo boundaries for 25 of them. Those proposals would be out on or around late 25 to March of 26. Obviously the reopening of Woodward, which is within our cluster area and in our capture area for the WJ cluster, certainly means that, BCC cluster, the Walter Johnson cluster, the Einstein cluster, which are everything kind of surrounding the town of Kensington, will all be within this.
Well, Woodward's supposed to open what, next year? Next school year?
Yes, as a holding
But
school.
yeah, that was
Yes.
my next question.
Yes.
So how many years is a holding school?
It was gonna be 1, now it's 2, so it wouldn't be available till like 27. There are some who think that if continued community pressure to get the stage and some of the other amenities built could mean delaying that till even 2028. But the boundary analysis they want to have done by 26, so they could enact it by 27. So Woodward is part of it, and then there's 2 other schools that are having major additions done that would necessitate this.
There's nothing else planned for Walter Johnson as far as expansion.
No, but Walter Johnson hit a milestone this year.
3,000,
Yes.
right?
3,076 or so students. So the first time it is over 3,000 students in total capacity as of the October 1st measurement date. It's a school that I think was originally built for 2,400. So it is a significantly over capacity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that is to say there will be many more future announcements as we hear from the PTA reps, as that information starts to flow down to include, what public meetings and engagement points there are, the data that they're collecting, and, chances for the public to be engaged.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. All right, just real quick, has anybody else besides me signed up for the fall MML meeting in Cambridge?
I have,
You have signed up? Okay, Susan, you know that, right?
she signed me
Mhm.
up.
Okay, good.
And I have declined with Susan.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
Same-
you
same-
guys are
same, yeah,
going.
we communicated.
Okay. All right, just making sure. Are you going for the whole time or
Still figuring that out.
figuring that out?
Looking at
Okay.
the agenda.
All right. Let's see. So Kate Stewart's office reached out to us regarding sitting down to talk about the Summit Avenue extension and getting, I guess, talk about the Public Works building as well as, the timing and everything else and how we can push this further. So I was going to suggest that myself, Nate, and Connor meet with Kate, if that works out for everybody. Since
Sounds good.
we were on the,
Mhm.
Yep.
the sales team to get the council to put it back in the CIP. So I will tell Paul, is there dates that are just really bad for you guys? I mean, especially you, Nate, if you're gonna be out of town.
No, I mean, December, but this would be November.
Yeah, hopefully
The
would
next
be.
2 weeks, I think, right? What
In-
did
Yeah, I
Paul
think they
say?
said.
Yeah.
Weeks. Yeah,
Okay,
we can find something.
okay.
Hmm.
And I'm assuming it'll be over Zoom.
Yeah.
Which would be good, unless she wants to come in. Okay, the other thing, I just wanted to report, I don't think anybody else came, the chess festival.
I couldn't be there.
It was really great. It really was. They had 47 kids that had signed up.
Great.
9 more they added to that day. They played 151 games. There were about 17 kids that had signed up but didn't come, but it was, I mean, having the perfect weather really helped.
A good
But
turnout
it
for
was a
first
good
time.
turnout for first time, and the gentleman that organized it was very pleased. So, but I missed the trophy thing, but the trophies apparently, Ellie was shocked. They were as big as the ones they give out for the car show. So every parent was like, oh my God, where am I gonna put that?
And every kid was like, I love
I
it.
know. Anyway, I want to remind everybody that the journal, deadline for the November, December issue is October 24th. So, we've got a little wiggle room if you, need some additional time. Please, I'll send something out tomorrow, but please let Carrie Ann know if you plan to submit something. We will probably not do a January issue, so keep that in mind. Let's see, we had our first chapter meeting in September. Darren, do you have any idea when they're gonna put out the calendar for their meetings, upcoming meetings? I mean, technically, we should be meeting next Thursday.
I've not gotten it. It's not
Okay.
from there. I mean, but it's fairly,
Well, the big meetings are when we meet with the county council and we
Mhm.
meet with the county executive. So I will make sure when that comes out that you guys,
Yeah.
see that, because those are important meetings. Let's see, we know that the Carmen's opening is Friday at 3:00.
Grand.
Grand, I know,
Ribbon
but
cutting.
yes, grand.
Ribbon cutting, yeah.
Has anybody had one yet besides me?
A lot of people in my family have.
I've actually had two.
that's good.
Knock on, I'm saving.
Yeah, go on.
saving it for
Okay. All right,
Disclose.
I paid for them myself. I paid my own ice cream, okay? Is anybody available on Sunday at 1:45 to be at Temple Emmanuel for the Spirit Club event? Jamie Raskin will be there. I am not gonna be there. I can tell her nobody is available.
We have,
I will be at Lambeau Field.
Wow, when you said you weren't available on Monday, now I know why.
Mm.
Well, I'll be at M&T Stadium, so.
Let's see who
I'll
comes
be
out
I'll
victorious.
be at the Adventist Health Center Stadium at
Ooh,
Starbucks Line.
okay, so nobody on this side's available? All right, I will let her know that we'll be passing, that's fine,
It'll be in the Wheaton Gym.
I know. And, last thing I wanna bring up, did you just see Carol? Have you seen that Carol's back?
I did.
Good, good, I'm
Yeah.
so glad, the woman in the apartment that got attacked by the
Yeah,
dog,
yeah,
she's
yeah.
back in town, so it's really good to see her. So, and I think that's all I got. Okay, so we've gotten down to that. So now we can go to the town manager and staff. Matt,
Really quick,
Oh.
we got some disappointing news from the State Highway Administration the other morning. The Connecticut Avenue MD 185 ADA sidewalk improvement project has been delayed. It was cut.
this is the one in front of Steve Cohen's, it's on the Armory.
The project was cut from the budget. They are stating FY 28 now. FY 28, so Mayor and I were discussing the major area is right in front of Steve Cohen's house. So what I think we'll do is just have our contractor go in and put a back curb and a railing in there, and then let the state come in and finish the rest of the project in FY 28. Because really the only safety issue is right in front of Steve's house. We have the engineering design. It's not like Jack's team can't do it. So we'll just go ahead and put a back curb in, put up a railing and create a safe zone there for passage on the sidewalk. And then when the state's ready, to proceed with the rest of the project, in FY 28, they can, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Mayor Furman brought up a sidewalk location. With the new Crossroads of Kensington property coming open, we're anticipating a lot of foot traffic, specifically from Brookwood School to go up there. And instead of trying to cross Howard Avenue at Connecticut, where the sight lines are not great,
Yeah.
They're bad.
Mayor Furman recommended that we put a sidewalk on the north side of Howard Avenue between Connecticut Avenue and Armory. We haven't walked it yet, but looking at the aerial, it looks like something. we
Pretty
can-
narrow, but it should be there. I think we recommended it too for our
It-
walkability. on
It is not in the town right away. We would be putting the sidewalk on CSX
We
right,
have a little bit of right of way.
but it's been done before.
Yeah.
By the county.
Mhm.
And Connor has a picture.
Yeah,
So we'll walk it with
Picture.
Jack.
it's a little tricky as you get to the top because of the guardrail that's there.
Yep.
Um.
Yeah.
But that is a horrible, horrible intersection. And when it was mentioned to me that, oh, the girls are so excited about going up there for lunch, it was like, oh my God,
Mhm.
that is, and it's not just the Brookwood girls, obviously, there'll be a lot of people
Yeah.
walking up there.
If we're gonna do it,
Yeah.
why don't we just extend it as far as we can down Howard?
The
Well, we can't-
problem is you can't,
The brick.
the
wall.
brick wall's in the way.
Yeah, I know, but it's not, doesn't stop at Armory, does it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah, it
thought
does.
stopped
So,
at,
And
The
then
bigger
plus
issue,
here.
the bigger
Well-
issue we're gonna have is with the connection point with the existing ramp at Connecticut. We're gonna have Joe Kuchar look at the intersection to see if we can shift it slightly and maybe bring, I don't know, we need to walk it. I'm pretty sure we can get a sidewalk. There's gonna be no tree box, the sidewalk's gonna be right on the curb. It's gonna be a 4-foot sidewalk, I don't know if we can get a 5, there's gonna be some trees taken down.
there's two puny little plum trees and then a yew.
And then we'll replant.
Sure.
But, just looking at it, it's an easy project for us at a reasonable cost for what we would get out of it for the public, so.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Could you also incorporate adding a bench at the ride-on stop there?
Yeah,
Because the people.
Yeah, they're standing in the
they're
grass.
Standing in the grass, always,
Dumbest thing,
it's just not very conducive for
mid-block.
transit riders.
Yeah.
let me walk it and just make sure we can
There's
do everything.
room,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, there is
All right.
room.
This is gonna
But
be
yeah, no, you
beneficial.
need to walk
Okay.
it, but I'd like you to
Yeah.
include that in
Yeah.
your planning if possible.
Okay.
It'll be beneficial too for if we get the separated side.
There would be another
Side
connection
bridge.
point, yeah.
Mhm.
So, we'll walk it. We still have to mill and pave that intersection from the sidewalk that we did earlier this year. It's a different team. It's a concrete team that would do this. It's not a paved team. But if we walk it and it looks good, maybe before the end of the calendar year. So
Great.
it's a small job for them, as long as there's no utilities in the way.
There shouldn't be any utilities in the way, and then
But
they get a crosswalk there at
Well,
the,
we don't know what's under.
oh, we don't
That's-
dig that
Are
deep.
you talking about a crosswalk at Howard? And,
Howard,
and
Howard and
Armory?
Armory,
We would put a.
that's where you have to end the sidewalk.
yeah,
Yeah, we would put a crosswalk at Howard and Armory.
Yeah,
good.
and there's good visual there
I
of
think
seeing
that's-
cars
It's
coming,
all very good.
yeah. Well, maybe, I mean, even for, if you decide to walk up to Marathon Deli, I mean, that intersection is just, everybody who goes up, they're all looking to the left,
Mhm.
waiting, making sure nobody's coming, they're not looking for pedestrians.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah,
looking for them at all.
whenever we do our walk.
Yeah.
For the
Scary
Rock
spot.
River and
Well, and if
everything
they're
else.
backed up, then you go to cross and all the people making a left onto Howard, they're just all trying to feed into it and they're not paying any attention to pedestrians either. It's just it's a miserable intersection.
I'll let you know if we can't proceed.
Okay.
Otherwise,
You'll just go ahead and move forward with it.
yeah, we'll see if we can get Jack's team in here soon
Yeah,
to do that, so.
yeah, it's gonna be a little tight there where the metal bumper thing is, but anyway. Okay. Anybody have any questions with the town manager report? Okay, I don't see anything. All right, so gee, are we through this whole thing now?
Well.
What?
Public appearances.
Oh, public appearances, okay. I forgot. I thought we'd already done that at 8 o'clock. Okay, so the last item on the agenda is public appearances. It's your opportunity to bring up anything that's on your mind that is not on the agenda. Okay. I'm not seeing any hands. So I think we can make a motion to adjourn after I just say one thing, which is our next meeting will be November 13th at 7 p.m.
6:30.
Oh, it's 6:30, sorry, I'm looking in the thing. Yep, I know, 6:30. At 6:30. Okay, so we will start that meeting with a listening session. Okay. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
All right. Take the late train.